I've got 3 predictions for the season here for the Warriors. I may have mentioned some of these a little bit in passing. Number 1, Slow-Mo is going to shoot 40+% from 3 this season. He shot 41% 2 years ago, his first season in Minnesota, and then I guess he had like a wrist injury. And so he was at 22% last year. But I think that you see the confidence in him. He has a green light from Steve Kerr, the spacing in the system that you play in, right? And then Slow-Mo's only going to take good ones. Even though he took a reload, did he take a step back 3? He's sneaking them up, right? But I think that his shot selection is going to allow him to be above 40%. And I think that even though he'll be at 40% probably all year, guys still aren't going to guard him out there, right? It'll take more than one season of doing it. And so again, he's going to get open looks from out there. That's number 1. Number 2, somehow, some way, Lindy Waters is going to crack the rotation. Now, it goes without saying, every organization, every fan base wants health, right? Health is wealth. And some of it is luck. Some of it is style of play, depth, right? But when you look at our guards, when you look at Melton, when you look at Pods, when you look at Moody, GP2, they're all guys that sell their body out. I'm not talking about in Dubai. I'm not talking about that type of stuff, right? But I mean, they're all first to the floor. They're all the type that will dive into the boot, into the sidelines, right into the press box and step in front of a big body, you know what I mean? And put their face into an elbow, that type of stuff. And so one way or another, I just think Lindy is going to get an opportunity. It may be like a week or, a 10-day period where we're a little depleted. And Lindy's going to get that opportunity, and I don't think he's going to look back, man. I think we know we were so focused on how pretty of a shot it is and how automatic it is, right? But quietly, he's a really good defender from what I've seen. Granted, it's preseason, but that was the scouting report. He is a 3-and-D player, and that's what he looks like, especially navigating screens. He navigates the screens very well. He's long. He's quick. And so again, somehow, some way, I don't want to wish any type of injury on anybody, but we know it's part of the season. It's a long season. At some point this season, he's going to get a shot, and he might just stick into the rotation just because of he's ready. It's his time. But I think that's what's exciting about a lot of these guys. They all feel like it's their time. So there's nothing wrong with a ton of internal competition so long as you maintain chemistry. And right now, it seems like they've got, the chemistry is on 10. We can all agree, right? Number 3, the Warriors are going to lead the league in bench scoring. Have you heard the phrase, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got none? It was coined by John Madden, right? Where it's like, hey, if you can't decide between either one of them, then, clearly you don't have one that's good enough, right? That's the theory behind it. But NBA bench scoring is kind of like that in a way where when you look at the best teams that score off the bench, some of them will be really bad teams, right? Where it really means you don't have very good starters, and so your bench plays a ton and they score a ton, right? But then sometimes it just means you've got a ton of depth, right? And I think that that's going to be the case with this Warriors roster, especially when you consider like, we got to try to preserve Steph and Draymond. I know it hasn't been talked about yet enough, and maybe because it goes without saying, but if you can preserve those guys, right, and have them not carry a heavy load, and then you've got all these guys, as I continue to say, at the right moment in their careers, I think we're going to be, top 3. I won't say lead, because there will be a Pistons or a team where it's like, hey, their bench is kind of their starters, and it doesn't really count, right? But I think we're going to be top 3 in the league in bench scoring in a good way. We're going to have that depth in a good way. So those are my 3 predictions before we officially tip off. All right, let's talk underdog for the Warriors opener. As always, you can use my code Alchemy and get up to $1,000 bonus on your first deposit, but it's Boosttober. They've been running boosts and specials all October. Opening week of the NBA, you're going to get a free pick every night of the week. Tonight, it's Wemby, but you get a 20% boost on any NBA game. There's just all sorts of specials. And again, use the code Alchemy. Jump in, play with us. We're going to not only have some fun, we're going to win. I'm going to eventually give away some prizes. And so this opening night game, it's difficult because we don't know the rotation when it comes to some of these picks, and we are such a deep team, like one of my predictions. But what I'm rolling with tonight is, have you heard the name Toumani Camara? Was a second-round pick in 2023, bounced around, has settled in with the Blazers. He was with them last year. He is of the GP2 ilk, but he's a big wing, 6'7", 225. Expect Chauncey Billups to have him pick up ball on Steph in the backcourt. And he's just going to play heavy minutes. I won't say heavy minutes, but he's going to play good minutes because he's so active and he's a defensive demon. And so I like 7 points higher for Toumani Camara. And then Buddy Hield, the way he shot the lights out in preseason, I like him over 9.5 points. And maybe it's just my bias, but I'm thinking maybe it's not close in the end. So the bench unit may get some extra minutes here. At least fingers crossed, that's what we're hoping for. What I am curious about against this Blazers team is how we handle their twin towers. I kind of feel guilty calling Ayton a tower because, yeah, technically he's a 7-footer, but, Ayton is not always dominating, right? But you got Ayton and then the rookie Clingan, right? And he is like 7'3". He's monstrous. He is a mountain of a dude. And so 2 true 7-footers who have the ability to dominate the glass, I think that's what you have to circle in tonight's matchup. Portland's way of staying in this game will be to force turnovers. Again, you're going to see backcourt ball pressure and a lot of high ball pressure, and then their size on the glass. That's the recipe for Portland to stay in this opener. It is in Portland. They at one time had a good home court. But that being said, yeah, I expect the Warriors to get it done, and hopefully we get to see a lot of the young fellas down the stretch. But again, Underdog Fantasy, jump in, use the code Alchemy. We're going to be playing all season. I'm going to be winning all season. I'm going to be giving out the picks, and it just adds a little something extra to these dub games for the Warriors. As far as picking the East and the West, it's such a crapshoot this year, right? And there's especially in the West. But I'll give you my picks right now to come out of the East and West. Not come out, to win, to be the 1 seed. In the East, I'm going to go the 76ers. In part because I think Boston is due some bad luck. I just do. I think that there may be some bad juju up there this season. Maybe I'm just hoping for it because they're so dominant. But the other element is I still think Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the league. And when you look at their roster, now they're old. Granted, they've got some older players and they could get injury stricken just like anybody else. But, Lowry, Drummond, they bring in Yabusele, Eric Gordon, Kelly Oubre, and then that's Maxey, Embiid, Paul George. You got Caleb Martin. They have a ton of depth. And I think that is where Nick Nurse really shines as a coach, is when you give him options, when you let him get creative with things and play different styles on a night-to-night basis. It's really effective in the NBA where teams aren't necessarily game planning. It's like, surprise, Nick Nurse is in a 3-2 press. You know what I mean? But you got to give him the personnel to do that. And those final years in Toronto, they didn't have enough versatile style of play. They just had a bunch of 6'7" athletes, and he could only play one way. And so I expect Nick Nurse to get creative and rack up a lot of regular season wins to get that 1 seed in the East. We know how important Embiid. I think the Embiid not playing back-to-backs is great. I'm all here for it. For him, right? Now, if Ant said it, yeah, we'd have a problem, right? But for Embiid at this point, yeah, I fully agree with it. In the West, y'all not going to like this. I think the number 1 seed is going to be it's going to be the Suns, I think, if I had to pick. Now, this one, I'm not putting any money on these. These are just, some light predictions here. But you watch them in the preseason and their offense, their ball movement, it's night and day with Bud there instead of Vogel. The ball is skipping around, right? Tyus Jones, a legit point guard. Monte Morris, a super sneaky pickup right there, right? And then it looks like they hit on both their rookies. Ryan Dunn, a defensive stretch, kind of like Trey Murphy. He's not a pure shooter like that, but he's knocking them down. That built in that archetype. And then remember our friend Osa Iguodaro from out here in the Valley is an older rookie who looks like he can give you some minutes. And so if I had to guess right now, again, this is always considering health. I like Philly in the East and the Phoenix in the West to capture the 1 seed headed into the playoffs.